Hello, dear friends of GP Roundtable. Welcome to a new episode, a very sparkling episode with connected from Australia, Jack Miller, Ducati rider. Hi, Jack. How are you doing?
Ciao, guys. Ciao, everybody. No, I'm doing all good.
Thank you very much for being with us. Let me introduce you to the journalists, to your friends that are here to listen everything from you. Manuel Presino from Spain. Hi, Manuel. Good morning.
Hola, hola a todo el mundo. Ciao.
Buenos días. Giovanni Zamagni from Italy. Hi, Zam. Ciao.
Ciao da Milano. Ciao.
Michel Turco from France. Bonjour, Michel.
Salut les gars, from Paris.
And good morning to Matt Oxley from England. Hi, Matt. How are you doing?
Hi, everyone from London. How are you doing?
Being with us. Let's start then, Jack. It seems that you had a very different lockdown from the European riders. I don't know how you spent it. Maybe you can tell us something. But let me tell you one thing that Danilo Petrucci told us last week when he was at the round table. He told us that he's starting to train with a motocross bike of 450cc because he told us that you often had made fun of him because he used to ride at 250, and so you were pulling his legs, and so he had to start with a 450. Is that true? No, Jack?
Yeah, 100% true. I always say to him and Dovi, I say, come on, guys, why are you riding around on these kids' bikes? You know, you need to get on something decent size. I mean, we are doing it for training or not. You need to ride the biggest, powerfulest thing. It's like a MotoGP bike, I guess. So that's good to hear. At least he's riding a man's bike now.
Yeah, he listen to you. Okay, shall we start with Michel? Michel, are you going to start, please?
Yes. So Jack, let's speak about your career in MotoGP. You had a special way to reach the MotoGP class. Even if you want to race in 2016, it takes time for you to be consistent at the front. Do you think you lost more time missing the Moto2 class or starting in MotoGP with an Honda?
It's kind of a two-sided story, I think you could say there.
You have time to reply.
Yeah, it's a hard one. I need to understand exactly where I mean, but no, I think it's. I think the starting with the Honda, especially the Open Honda, wasn't that was 1 year. Okay, I gained some experience and everything like that, but was 1 year you can almost throw away, because the bike was so inferior to everything else that was on the grid or anything else that I would ride after that. And then even the next year, we were so far behind when Honda finally switched to the Magneti Marelli software. We were so far behind that my bike was basically the same but more powerful than the year before, because the electronics, nothing like that really seemed to work that great. They were so focused on trying to get the bike to work for Marc and these guys with the Magneti Marelli software. We were so late that their main focus was of course the factory team, that we were struggling a little bit there with that. But then the last year with the Honda we started to improve, and you saw, I mean, the guys like Morbidelli, Tito, even Luti, the guys who rode this bike struggled. And I at least I can say I feel I did a decent job with my experience there. But then, the 1 year on the Ducati with the older motorbike, and then the first year on the current motorbike, and we were able to get on podium. So it was different, but I don't think I lost more time if I went Moto2.
Okay, Manuel.
Jack, I want to speak about this. What we discovered with the system Ducati has to lower the bike. At the end, you laughed in the face of all of us, saying that you had used this in Thailand, right? That system,
yeah.
That you had to look like a fool at the grid because something was wrong and you couldn't say the truth and all this stuff. And the question is, have you tried or has Ducati used you for other inventions during last season, which we don't know?
Why would I tell you this?
No, because it happens already.
No,
it happens already.
You guys, the big thing, everybody was saying, you have this amazing link. They start to use this amazing system, da 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 da. And then you come and ask me questions like you've discovered, electricity. And I said, it's old news. So I was thinking to myself, and to be honest, I was looking at pictures of myself from Thailand, from Malaysia, and these places, when the bike is like this, and I'm thinking, how the fuck are these guys not seeing this? How do they not see what is happening right here? But, I mean, other things that we've tried, I mean, nothing in particular really that's stuck around, let's say. We've tried other things that just been trial and error, but nothing that's stuck around, for example, like the link.
Okay,
Right.
but
Jack, last season, you definitely seemed to kind of sort of change a bit. You got a bit more serious and more thoughtful about your riding, and Tardozzi sort of said this, and various other people. And I think you kind of admitted it. And I kind of wondered whether there was a particular moment where you thought, right, I'm gonna, you were always serious about your racing before, but you were also very serious about having a lot of fun. Was there a particular moment where you thought, right, this is it, I'm going to turn a corner here, or was it more of a gradual thing?
No, I think it's more of a gradual thing. I think if we go to the real serious side of things, I think that was maybe, sort of mid 2015. I want to say is when the turning point started, and it just gradually worked on. Last year you could only really see it for my results, but I feel I turned the corners. Like, I've always been serious about my racing and where I finished, but I think last year you really got to see the effort I was putting in, and I was actually able to learn the final step of the things because I wasn't chasing my ass, trying to understand, how to save the tires and stuff like that on a bike that you're struggling to stick with them out of the corner. So then you go try and kill yourself on braking. And it felt I had like the last little bit of the puzzle there to put everything together and learn that last little bit, with the tire consumption and things like that and saving it till the end of the race and stuff like that. I didn't find myself, I wasn't trying to do 10 qualifying laps and then hope to God I stayed on and then wobble around for the rest of the race, trying to stick as close to the front as possible, which was kind of like what it was the years before. It was like go all guns blazing, and then just, once you sort of hit a wall, then we'll go from there. So I think last year was really the clear point. But like you say, I have always been one of the guys, and I think I will always be one of the guys that enjoys having a bit of fun. But last year was definitely the clear point where you can see, that I am serious about racing, and I do take these things seriously.
Okay.
Giovanni.
Jack, if it is possible, I wanted to know what's happened last year, just before, during, and after Austrian Grand Prix with Ducati. What's
Austria.
happened with Ducati?
To be honest, not a lot for me. I mean, I just heard a lot of rumors, and then to be honest, I wasn't really taking any of the rumors seriously that I was hearing. And then eventually, Aki, my manager, came to me and said, "Hey, this is actually a real thing. This could be happening, and we need to start to maybe talk to other people." And I was like almost shocked, and shocked. Angry, scratching my head, wondering what I'd done wrong. But so, and then after, I on the Sunday, even though I crashed in the race and everything like that, I was sitting there in the motorhome, and I got called by Paolo Caminotti to the hospital. Hospitality. He said, come and visit me upstairs in his area, and I went and seen him, and him and Gigi were sitting there smoking a cigar together, and they basically said, everything's cool, and I get a job for next year, and all of this sort of thing. So it was a strange time, let's say, very strange period, but we was I guess it's one of those things that can happen. I guess.
Michel, back to you.
Yeah, another strange thing, Jack, is that you got the factory seat before the start of the championship. How did you manage it?
Yeah, I start to feel like a Yamaha rider now, because signing contracts before the season starts and stuff like this. But
Who did you convince? Gigi,
man,
Paolo, Claudio?
Was not me, not at all. If you speak to any of those guys, I've been quite useless on the telephone. So that I actually got a signature on the paper was amazing, because I've been kind of difficult to contact. Let's say most of the people who've wanted to contact me have been having to go through my mother, because on the farm I tend to leave the phone in the house and go out for the whole day, and I come back and there's 1,000 notifications on it. But I think it starts to get to a point. Then other manufacturers were making all their decisions, so I guess they had to do it.
You think you think Ducati was afraid to lose you?
Not really, but I think they wanted to make their plans already clear for the next season. I think that was one of the key things, and my goal was to stay with them. They knew, of course, I had offers for other places, but they knew I wanted to stay with them. They know I can ride the bike well enough, so I guess it was an easy option for their. I don't know who will be. I don't know what my teammate will be, or who will be next to me in the garage, but at least to put one guy in the seat.
Jack, I went through last season before this interview to check, and I was so astonished, because when you put it all together, you did in qualifying, second in Brno, third in Silverstone, fourth in Aragon, fourth in Sepang, third in Valencia. This is really amazing. But my question is, you got the speed, this is clear. What do you need to transform this performance in results at the end of the race? Okay, is it down to you? Is it down to the bike? Which is the next step?
Mix between both. Maybe some places like when we got the front row in Silverstone, it was sort of unexpected. But then I think towards the second half of the season, I started to really learn how to put these things into the end of the race, getting the most out of, I mean, for me, Valencia was a clear example. It was probably my best weekend of my racing career to date, I think, because I rode the weekend. Nobody was really speaking about us coming into the race. I knew I had the pace. I'd done the work through the whole Grand Prix and through the whole weekend up until the Sunday, and then in the race was able to do what I needed to do, get a good start, go with the guys at the front, and then at the end of the race have enough tires. I mean, if you look at the pace from the race, it was so fast with Marc and Fabio, and I was able to stay with those guys and not lose them when the guys like Dolby and these other guys were not able to follow us. So for me, which has normally not been my strong point, normally towards the second half of the race, in the past have been that those guys start to break away, I start to slow down a little bit, and then the guy behind me, normally, which is normally Dolby, catches me quite a lot. So I was able to there, race like in I think it was in Brno as well. It was quite similar like that, where I was able to save the tire towards the end of the race. The biggest thing for me is managing the tires and being able to have the grip over the whole race is the biggest thing.
So it's down to you then, or is it the bike that is difficult in this point?
Bit of both. It's me, but it's also how you set the bike up through the weekend. So you need to be able to, and you have to understand that you are building your bike for the race, not for the other things. The lap time, the biggest thing I've understood is the lap time will come if you are fast enough for the qualifying. If you are working for the race, how the bike is going to behave with the tires, this, that, the other, then you can do a good job, not only in the qualifying, but also in the race, because you will have the confidence and the speed, let's say the lap by lap speed, that, okay, if you really put your, head down in the qualifying, you're able to drop, another 6 7/10,
Wow.
sometimes more, sometimes less, and go that extra bit to push for those first sort of 3 rows is where you're aiming. And then if you've got that pace, if your pace is sort of half a second to a second off that time, then you should more or less have the pace for the race.
Interesting.
Matt, please.
Jack, you've been very good mates with Cal Crutchlow for a long, long time. I'd like to ask, you're kind of partners in crime and all that. I'd like to ask, what's the sort of stupidest thing you've ever done together?
It's hard to put it down to one thing, Matt. I mean, Cal sort of passed the stupid things, let's say. He's quite mature now, and I think he just leaves the doing stupid things up to me. But hard to say one of the stupidest things. But I mean, yeah, I don't really know one thing. It's hard off the top of my head.
Okay, no worries. What do you do most of the time with Cal? Is it cycling or mountain biking, or because I mean I know you like to train together.
He doesn't do much mountain biking, but I mean I've been at the start we were cycling and stuff like that together. Now I've sort of cycling's like his long road rides. Being basically a professional cyclist is what works for him. I've sort of found what works for me, so it's more on a mate sort of relationship rather than a training partner. We're just mates. I go and sit in the motorhome, or they come over to mine, and we just yarn. It's just more a friendship rather than training partners or stuff like that. For sure, if I'm going out, he's a good guy to learn off, definitely, because he's one of the most I think strict guy when it comes to his training and what he does for the race. But for me, a lot of it's not for the race. It's a lot for what he enjoys. He enjoys being a great cyclist, and he is a great cyclist. So I mean, he has to, and it benefits him doing that. Benefits him being a motorcycle racer. So yeah, we just get to sort of kick back and yarn and just have a good time together. I think is more than anything. I think I bring a sort of a cheerful atmosphere into his even if he's having a shitty day or something like that, or if I'm having a shitty day, we can sort of cheer each other up a little bit, have a laugh about it. If one of us is starting from the back row or ended up going to Q2, I couldn't see that happening, mate, all that sort of thing, because if the weather's going to shit on a Saturday morning and one of us, either him or me, are not inside that top 10, then we sort of, give each other shit in the night, say, you got to go and do 2 laps tomorrow, you got to go do the one in the Q1, and then you got to come and try and do a Q2, so it's quite funny. We can sort of have a joke about that.
And your own training, is it sort of? I know you love motocross. That's your big thing. I mean, when you're in Spain, what are you doing? Motocross, dirt track, sort of
everything,
supermoto, gym,
everything sort of thing. I'm fortunate enough that I'm able to do all those sort of things. I have the let's say the bikes to do all those sort of things. But also, don't get me wrong, I do whether it be road rides, mountain bikes, running, I do everything. I don't try not to specify myself to one thing, whereas Cal, he's that one thing. He likes doing that, and that's what he likes doing. I like doing everything. I like to spread it around. I think it keeps training fun. It keeps my mind sort of fresh, and I find myself going through phases of, this week I'll be loving doing this and that, but then, of course, to keep my weight down, I've always got to do the cycling, or I've always got to do either that or running. So it's, but also I really enjoy mountain biking. So in the winter, generally I go and do the camp. It's all mountain biking pretty much through there, because it's just something I enjoy, and we get out with a good group of guys that are really strong mountain bikers, and that sort of thing. So I think you just got to find what sort of works for you, and doing that, day in, day out, consistent thing of cycling isn't what, for me. I enjoy riding bikes, and I think it helps me, like I said, keep my mind, let's say, active in that sort of thing, and bike control and stuff like that. So I enjoy that.
Thanks.
Giovanni.
Jack, coming back to your contract with Ducati for the future, you have just 1 year of contract. Why are you happy with this contract, or are you afraid that could happen something that happened to Petrucci, for example, in the last year?
Well, I mean, he got 2 years, but I mean, every contract I've had with Ducati seems to be 1 year. So I'm not too stressed. You know, I've been on a 1 year contract since 2000 and 19 or 18. So I'm not too stressed. It is what it is. I'm like I say, happy to keep that job. I will keep that going. Many guys in the past have done 1 year contracts only. For example, Mick only ever did a 1 year contract, and guys like that. Not saying that I'm Mick Doohan or anything like that. Nothing even remotely similar to Mick. But I think if you have confidence in yourself, if you believe you're able to do a good job, I think doing 1 year contracts can only help you. The only problem, if you're going to get nervous about doing a 1 year contract, is if you're worried you're not going to do good, which is the wrong mentality, I think, 100% to take into a year of racing.
Jack, you are the first Ducati rider to be confirmed for next year. In the case of Dovi moves to KTM, will you be ready to lead the team and with all the pressure that it means?
Yeah, I think so. I had not in the same thing, but I've led teams before in the past with Aki's team in Moto3. In Marc VDS, I was the number one rider, let's say, there. And last year as well in Pramac, even you could even say I was quite close already in the first year there on the older machine. But last year in Pramac, I was able to be quite a good team leader. I think we did not bad. We nearly got the independent championship, and I had a rookie teammate, so I think we did a good job there.
Yeah, but Ducati, like said Giovanni, is not a peaceful team. It's always a bit a casino between Domenicali, Dall'Igna, Ciabatti. So it's not the place that you can get the peace that you need to get results.
Yeah, but I mean, I've worked for Finnish guys, and they are quite difficult to please also. So I mean, I think I'm able to. It comes back to the same thing. It's like a 1 year contract. If you're doing the job good, everybody's happy. So it just means you have to do your job well. I think is the only way you can keep peace, because when everything is going well, the peace is there. You know what I mean? Everybody can walk around and say that they made this great. So the biggest thing is up to you, and I guess you just have to be ready to have that pressure on your shoulders.
Manuel, you have another?
Yeah, I have two questions about Aussie riders. The first one, if you with Stoner and Doohan, which one do you identify yourself more? I mean, which do you think you are more like, Mick or Casey?
I'd like to say neither. I think if there's anyone I think I identify to more, I think it's Wayne. Quite out of control, quite aggressive in terms of riding style and stuff like that. I like to feel like I would like to have a mix of all of them. The consistency, the domination of Mick, the technique of Casey, and the aggression and the determination of Wayne.
And how do you get along with Remy? Because now he is coming strong, and he looks strong, and he wants to end at MotoGP. How do you get along with him?
Yeah, great. Remy's a good kid. And Wayne's a great guy, so I get along with them great. Australians, we're all quite similar. We're all able to get along pretty well. So I'd love to see another Australian in the GP class. Remy did an amazing job last year. He struggled a little bit towards the second half of the season, but that's normal, but we saw how strong he was in races like where it was Argentina, in Qatar. He was very close in, a lot of races last year. So I think he's definitely somebody that, and last year, like we said, is the first time he was really on a competitive machine. So I think it will be interesting to see what he can do for the rest of this season.
Jack, sorry, just one question, because several days ago, Francesco Guidotti told us, I wish I could see Jack racing in the 80s, because I think he would have won 10 championships in a row, or he would have killed himself 10 times. No, but anyway, it would have been fantastic to see him racing there. That was what Francesco told us. I just want to know, do you have any regrets not being road racer
For sure.
of the 80s and being a third millennium racer?
For sure. My dream would be to go back and race in the 80s. You know, everything was a lot more, let's say, loose and free. And
yeah,
fuck, with the way 2020 is going at the moment, I think it would be a fucking great time to have a time machine and head back to the 80s. You know, it seemed like a lot more simpler time back then. But no, I think I definitely could. I can identify with that sort of style of racing, traveling around in the camper and, you know, doing everything sort of half yourself. Maybe having one mechanic there helping, but unfortunately, nobody's invented a time machine yet. So, but I definitely think I could have fit in well, you know, with the cigarettes under the helmet and this, that, and the other. Even though I don't like smoking, but I'm sure in the 80s everything's possible.
Great.
Can I ask you a last thing, Jack? We have been speaking about the past, about the future. Let's speak about the present. How you will face this strange championship we are going to have? Now you have the insurance to have a seat for next year. So can you take more risk?
I will take the maximum risks as possible anyway. I mean, like you say, it's a short championship. It's you know, it's at the moment still 0-0-0. We're all equal coming into this championship. It's not as many races. You know, I think it's a good opportunity for a wild card. You know, a guy that can get the ball rolling from the start. I think that's one of the things that is most necessary. But also, you know, with a lot of guys having a lot of time off the GP bikes, it sometimes takes them a bit of time to get back into the swing of things. Whereas I feel I can pick it up quite quickly. I'm quite good at that. I always find myself going one of the fastest always, even on older bikes, you know, with less competitive bikes, always the first day of testing, second day of testing, even in the first test, you know, we're always quite high up. I feel I'm able to pick up where I left off quite easy. So I think that's going to be one of the most important things, because without having too much testing, you know, a couple of hours is not going to change too much when it comes to having 3 days or, you know, 6 days previous to going to race. So I think if you're able to pick up very quickly, I think that's going to make a big difference. And yeah, like you say, I mean, having, you know, a couple of races at some tracks, which we never had before, so it's going to be interesting as well.
Giovanni, I think is the last question. Then,
Jack, do you think it's more easy to beat Marquez with the same bike or with a different bike?
Hard to say. I don't think the same bike, because I mean, we've seen many guys. I think that bike now is quite well developed around Marc Marquez. I think if you give him a plank of wood, the guy is still a freak. You know, he will make it work. So I think the biggest thing to beat Marc Marquez, and you know, it used to be, was waiting for Marc Marquez to beat him. But at the moment, you know, with what we saw last year, he was very consistent, very calm, very calculated, didn't make many mistakes, was on the podium nearly every weekend, apart from like 2. So I think the biggest thing now is going to have to be getting there and trying to be as close to him as possible, and then see what we can do. He's no different to any other opponent, like we say, but the guy, I think if you gave him a KTM tomorrow, a Ducati tomorrow, a Yamaha tomorrow, the results will be almost the same. I think it wouldn't change so much. He will be there. He will be the same speed. He will be the same, you know, everything. I think it will be almost the same riding style, you know, saving it on the front and stuff like that. It's just the way the guy is. So I think we cannot look at, you know, the Honda is a better bike, the Ducati is a better bike, this is that. the Honda's working really well for Marquez at the moment, and we have to try and make the Ducati in the not so distant future work for Jack Miller the best we can.
Matt?
Is there any, you know, your riding is getting better and better and better as the bikes get better, and you're riding, you know, you're on a constant evolution, upward evolution. Is there any area of your riding technique that you think you need to work a little bit on? Any particular area?
For sure, there's always stuff, you know, like I said before, coming back to, I am quite, let's say, aggressive. Some little things like that, which help me in some areas, but also hamper me in other areas. So I think I'm always trying to learn. I'm an open book, you know. I'm not saying, oh, this is how I ride, da, 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 da. Okay, this is the way I kind of ride, but I'd like to, you know, try and fix a few things here and there, and always trying to evolve. I mean, if you look at guys like the greats, you know, Rossi and guys like that have developed or you know, adapted to the times as they've changed. And I think you can't stop adapting and you know, developing your riding style because, you know, I think that are just, you know, you're stuck in that year. Each year we come back, we're riding at a different rate. The races are different. The pace is different. The way you approach races is different. So I think that's a big thing. But yeah, we just got to wait and see. I think, you know, I can keep learning. You know, I'm very fortunate to be where I am on a factory bike for the second year. 25 years old, 26, I'll be on a factory contract with the factory team at Ducati. So I'm very fortunate because a lot of guys don't get that opportunity until a lot later on in their careers. And I'm so lucky to be this age. You know, I feel not even in the middle of my career. Well, I am semi in the middle of my career, but, you know, if in the big scheme of things of my MotoGP career, I don't feel I'm quite in the middle of that. But we'll have to wait and see, you know, how long I can stick around. But I'd like to, you know, see it on for as long as possible. And to have this opportunity so early is amazing.
Okay, Jack, we thank you so much for being with us, for having participated to GP Roundtable. We wish you all the best for this season and for next season. Congratulations for your new contract, and thanks again for being with us.
Thanks for having me, guys. And yeah, I hope everybody's doing well in their respective countries, and hopefully we can all catch up as soon as possible and get back to racing, doing what we all love. So thanks for having me.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you,
Thank
Jack.
you very much.
Ciao, Jack.
Ciao, ciao.
See you
Ciao.
very soon. So, guys, we leave Jack and Manuel. What's new? Is there anything we can talk about, maybe regarding calendars and movements? What's the situation nowadays?
I think that we are expecting Dorna giving out something this week. Okay, because we saw that Piero Taramasso from Michelin told us that he needed 5 weeks to prepare the tires. So if you calculate the July 15th, it has to be this week that the real thing has confirmed or not. This is, I think, what is going to happen.
Matt, Michel Zam, please, Matt Zam.
I think that the problem is again Italy, because we know that, for example, Spain putting in quarantena, I don't know to say in English, in quarantena, the Italian that come from Italy. So I think because you remember when we spoke with Carmelo Speleta in the beginning of May here in the MotoGP Roundtable, he said to us that in 2 weeks he was ready for the calendar. And I think that now we are a little bit late for this problem, I think. And I also know, I spoke with some teams and said to me that the protocol, we say like in English, the protocol is very, very difficult to maintain. So I think that they have to adjust the protocol, and because for the moment it's too complicated to do it.
Michel and Matt?
What I would like to say that in what, like Giovanni said, there is still some problems to handle. But in another way, I think we can be more optimistic than a few weeks ago, because globally in Europe, the situation is a lot better. At least, I mean, in France, is a lot better. And from what I heard, maybe we could also have 2 races at the end of the year in Asia. Even if Australia, Japan were cancelled, it seems that Malaysia and Thailand are still in the game to have to host races at the end of the championship. So maybe we could have 12 or 14 races this year.
Okay, yes, Martin. Then I want to ask you something regarding.
Yeah, I mean, if we do have those 2 races in Malaysia and Thailand, which hopefully will, this will be the first ever time we've been racing in December, which will be quite strange. But that'll be. I spoke to Stuart Pringle from Silverstone the other day, and you know, about how they're surviving this situation, and it's the same. You know, it's the same for every racetrack in the world. In Britain, in the UK, we have a furlough scheme where if you can lay off your workers, well, the government pays 80% of their wage.
We also.
And so he's got 100 full-time workers on government furlough and another 100 part-time workers on government furlough. But this only goes till October at the moment. And he says, you know, the track is lucky they've got some cash reserves, which are going very quickly, because they have like you know, it's a huge site. And they haven't taken any money since middle of March, nothing, not a penny. But although they're now just starting, they hope to do some Formula 1 testing in June, because most of the teams are here. So but he says if this situation continues into next year, which isn't impossible, then it will be really hard to survive. And I think that, you know, again, that will apply to every racetrack in the world. So you know, we're not out of the woods yet, you know.
Okay, let's go back to Jack. How did you see him? I think he's an incredible guy. These feelings, this emotion, this kind of live. I think he's suffering being part of the third millennium road races. No, what do you think?
Well, in my opinion, he represents perfectly the Aussie spirit. You know, I think the Australians, they are different. I don't know if it's because their head is they are down under, but they have a very special way of being. And Jackie is amazing. And what has surprised me really, that how mature he has turned in. No, he looks really mature. He's 25 already, but they have changed our Jack. He's not a crazy Jack anymore. Now he's ready to go for it, in my opinion.
But he knows that. I think he's sad of being a new Jack. Don't you think he would like to be the old Jack? Maybe with less results, but with these emotions, no, and with these feelings, with these attitudes.
Yes, I agree with you, Franco. I agree with you. I think that, but I think that it could be the right rider for Ducati, because for that you said, and what said Manuel Pessino, he has the attitude to be a Ducati rider. I think that he can do very well. I hope he can do very well.
Please, Matt.
The big thing about Jack is that he's incredibly relaxed. You know, obviously, like you said, he takes his racing very seriously, but he knows the best way to be serious is to be relaxed about it. You know, he doesn't get stressed about stuff. He kind of, it's almost that sort of attitude that if it all turns to shit, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? That's a kind of defense system in a way that stops you from getting too worried and too stressed, which will be a negative thing. I asked him last year who he's most like, Stoner, Doohan, or Bayliss, and he said Bayliss, you know, because Bayliss was very similar, you know, incredibly hard racer, very aggressive, but off the bike, when he was having a chat, I mean, you just could not find anybody more relaxed. And again, he was like, well, if it all turns to shit, I don't care, I'll go home and go on the farm, kind of thing. So I think, and Doohan was a bit like that, Stoner less so. Doohan, I mean, very incredibly serious, and but at the same time, he did have a kind of relaxed side to him. I think there's Australians for some reason are very good sportsmen, aren't they? They live very outdoor lives, so they're always out. If you're a runner, so if you're a motorcyclist and you're living in Australia, you're riding the bike every day, all day, like Jack says. So that's an important thing, and they're just very good sportsmen, I think. Very good sportsmen.
Yep.
Okay, Michel, anything to say, and then when I let you go.
I think his future will also depend of the name of his next teammate, because we all know how Dovi was important in the development of the Desmo Sedici. If he leaves, what will be the next chapter? So yeah, I think it's a big question mark, in my opinion.
Okay, we'll have to wait and see what happens. Okay,
Yes.
guys, see you next week then. Manuel Pesino, Spain. Ciao, Matt, England,
Ciao.
Michel Turco, France, and Giovanni Zamagni from Italy. Bye, guys.
Ciao,
Ciao guys,
Bye-bye.
adios,
Bye-bye.
adios, see
See you
you.
next
tutti.
week. Bye bye.